To the Down Beach Current, we're notified of this meeting. Copy of the same was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building. Would you take a second and turn off all electronic equipment? And we're going to stand for the flag salute. Attention, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tom, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Becker?
Here.
Mr. Blumberg?
Here.
Mr. Talby?
Here.
Lisa, you have an amendment to a capital ordinance that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I'll be very brief on that. Simply, initially, when we passed ordinance 2013-14, it authorized $120,000 for the purchase of a dump truck for Public Works, and Frank feels more of a need to replace a tractor and surf rake. So the way the ordinance reads currently, we're not unable to purchase it, so it's basically just amending the verbiage. The dollar amount is remaining the same. The only change is the wording.
Okay. Everybody okay with that?
Good by me.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Lisa. Mr. Abbott, you have a few things to talk
We have a
about?
number of things to go over, Mayor. That's perfect. Why don't we start with the proposed resolutions with regard to the aggregation program? And I have these reviews here. And I know that Ed Wahlberg is deeply involved with this as well. And if we can, I'm not sure that we're quite ready to adopt these resolutions. I'd like to hear if Ed could explain to the three of you. You recall the last meeting, you did vote to move forward on this. Now, these are two resolutions that actually authorize us to enter into a cooperative pricing agreement, and the other one is to, actually move forward on it. And Eddie, if you would, can you explain a little bit better than I as to the necessity of this, or should we just, at this point, simply consider it for vote at the next meeting?
Okay.
Or next
So next
scheduled
regular
in 2
meeting.
weeks, yeah.
In 2 weeks, yes. Essentially, the first ordinance, or the first resolution, rather, is just to actually appoint CUC as the agency that will do the negotiation and bidding, the reverse auction for us, which I think, everyone is okay with. I've had experience with them in other co-ops, in another co-op, actually one other co-op, as well as several other in my towns. So I'm very comfortable with that. The second one essentially is establishing us as the lead agency. What that does, by us being the lead in the co-op, essentially we control our destiny a little bit more than the other municipalities, because we are the ones that will get the results of the ordinance, of the auction initially, and we're the ones that would then make the decision to enter into the agreement with the power supplier, whoever is the low bidder. So, essentially, you go with the low bidder no matter what, but at least we have the opportunity to review it, see what it is, and make the initial decision. So, but, it would be good to do them tonight, but it doesn't have to. Another 2 weeks isn't really going to make a difference. If anyone has any concerns or would like better explanation, I certainly can get something from CUC, maybe get a letter on the resolutions, just elaborating or indicating what what I'm saying here.
I think Rich outlined some concerns in a letter to us yesterday. Is that correct, Rich? Do you want to just publicly go on the record with those?
Sure. I have no problem in you acting tonight if that's what you would like to do. These are my concerns, however. I would suggest that you modify the now therefore portion of it so that you're not authorizing the mayor to sign any and all documents pertaining hereto. That's way too broad in my view at this point. I would be okay if you just appointed CUC at this point and let them act on our behalf, and if there are documents, they should be brought back to us for review by the attorney, and then get authorization to sign specific documents. The other way of doing it is, if you want to authorize the mayor to sign all documents, then you should condition it on it being approved by the attorney, the solicitor, as to form and content. He's not making an opinion on whether you should or you shouldn't. He's just making sure that we're protected in the documents and that we don't have a liability that we don't understand. I think that's extremely important. And I guess the last point I make is, before we sign any documents, if we're going to be the lead agency, I think there's going to be some costs. It may not be a lot, but there are going to be some costs associated with being the lead agency, and it still may be worth doing. But if there's any significant costs in terms of attorney reviews or actions that we might have to take, I think they should be shared by the other ones who are going to be participating in this, the other municipalities in this process. And all of that's unknown to all of us at this point, and that's where my concerns are generally. So I guess, in summary, you have two ways you can act. You can either table it until we can get those things resolved. We can modify the therefore clause and do it conditionally upon no signatures until the attorney reviews it and signs it as to, approving it as to form and content.
Ed, you said, correct me if I'm wrong, that waiting the 2 weeks, getting this all modified and cleared up wouldn't really matter? Is that correct?
It's not going to be significant in the process, so...
Because I was
if you're more
listening
comfortable
to
with
your discussion.
having Rich's, or his concerns addressed by CUC and having the resolution modified, we can do that. That's not a problem.
I would be okay with that. Scott, how about what's going on?
I think so. And who would convey those messages to CUC? Would that be you, Ed?
I would ask that you convey that to CUC and ask them to be in touch with Scott,
Surely.
because I'm going to be away next week.
Okay. If I could, did I hear that you would put them in writing, Rich, or your concerns?
I did put them in an email to Tom and to the commissioners and to Scott, so if they get in touch with Scott, he'll be able to
Okay,
resolve it.
great.
Here's what I'm going to do. I've marked this up. I think if the three commissioners are in agreement, we will save this or table it to be voted upon at our next regular meeting 2 weeks from now. And by that time, we can straighten out some of the issues here on these two resolutions, and we're really not losing any time. And
Right.
you're good with that, right?
Yes.
And Rich, if you're okay, I
You okay
can...
with that?
Yeah, I definitely am, but I could forward you the email so you can see some of Rich's concerns.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
The one other thing that I wanted to do, and I mentioned this at our last meeting, is if, Rich, you could work, if it's okay with Tom, on a formal resolution that suggests that we will, and I don't know the wording, that this process has to occur by commission, approval by the full commission on an annual basis, so that there's no gray areas as it relates to when we renew and when they go out for another rate, that it has to be approved by the full commission and reviewed on an annual basis from the time that would be from the time we enter into the first agreement with whoever the agency is.
Okay.
Scott, you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so done. All right, Scott, you want
I'll
to...
move very rapidly upon here. We have two at the next meeting of tonight. We're asking to award professional services to Vanessa James as well as to Steve Barcy. These are both labor attorneys. Steve Barcy is our longtime labor attorney. We have to extend his contract and supplement it with a $5,000 amount. Vanessa James will be the attorney who is widely acclaimed to be an expert on employment booklet and procedures with employees, municipal employees. We're asking her, Rich Deeney and I have conferred with her, to try to upgrade our employment book. She actually teaches a course on it. She's given lectures and seminars, and we really think that that is the right way to go. And hopefully the three of you will agree with that tonight. Shall I go over the easements briefly? I'd like to touch also on the question of the easements and what is involved with that. I've received some inquiries about that, and I brought with me one of the maps, just to very briefly, so you have an idea. We think it's 10 properties. That's what we think. But without a comprehensive title search, now, I have been greatly assisted by Joanna of the tax office, and I brought this just as, this is just one of 4 maps that we've mounted to show you that the vast majority of the beachfront of Margate at one time was granted by the state of New Jersey to some of the early developers. One of the early developers, for instance, was the Camden Atlantic Railroad. What really has to be done, if we want to be certain of this, is each title has to be traced back to see at what time did the city and how did the city acquire title to some of these beaches, because according to our tax maps, we as a city do have the vast majority of these oceanfront lots under city ownership.
Scott, so I'm clear, we need to do a title, or you need to do a title search of the 10 properties, or are you talking about all the properties?
Well, here's the worst nightmare scenario. You don't do all the properties, and you find out that there were mistakes made, or, for instance, and the most common one that I'm familiar with doing a lot of repairing work, say, for instance, 70 years ago, somebody conveyed title to an oceanfront lot, and typically there's a lot of these, they didn't include the riparian rights that go out 1,600 feet out in the water. And then as time went by and decades went by, individuals bought and sold these lots, and the question is, who actually owns that beach? Now, if this gets into a partial taking or court action, believe me, we're going to find out real quick who thinks they own those beaches. That's been the experience in some of these other seashore communities. What am I talking about? If we're really going to do it correctly, we really ought to have a very thorough title search. How much would that cost? You're talking between $5,000 and $10,000 to really search each title. As it looks right now, there's 10 of them. To be 100% certain, you need to do more than that. And I have done it on some individual lots. It's a very time-consuming process. What you do is you really get a title abstractor who does this for a living, and they'll run you out a report on each oceanfront parcel going back to, well, not quite base title, but going back to see who exactly really owned it. I know our tax map says in a lot of these City of Margate, but we don't know how that came to be or whether or not it's really correct. That's where we are. Questions on this one? There should be, maybe. A couple?
You mentioned Margate one time had a boardwalk.
Yes.
So this title search, I guess, would go back that far?
This title search should go back to at least 1900, possibly back to when the city was, certainly back when the city was South Atlantic. Because I believe, and I haven't seen it yet, there has to be some document that established that right away for the Margate Boardwalk. It has to be. I don't have it yet. I've asked abstractors to look for it, but nobody's really taken the time to really go back. I know our city clerk's office doesn't have it. We don't have a copy of that document. It would probably be good for us to have that regardless of what you're doing, just to firm it up. What are the legal rights? How do we have it? I do know for a fact that there's at least about 10 properties. They still own fee simple title going well out into the ocean. So that's just an update, guys.
And this is probably something that we would take up if we were going to do it sometime in November after we see how the non-binding referendum question turned out.
Well, that's up to you guys. That's up to you.
Legally, my understanding is that we're not allowed to incur any expense as it relates to the ordinance that was previously passed. Yes,
that ordinance does say that, but over and apart from that, you could say, yeah, maybe we should have this anyway, just to have it.
Right.
I mean, I know, for instance, Atlantic City had it. I know when I was a solicitor up in Ventnor, I was very fortunate. We found a thick title search, about 6 inches thick, that they had in a safe there that went up to the 40s. which was wonderful because that gave us our base title on every oceanfront property. But we haven't found that here in Margate yet. We don't have that from 70 years ago, 80 years ago. So it's however the three of you want to proceed, that's an update as to where we are on that particular issue. Okay, what else shall I go over right now? Anything else? I think that's good. I'm going to change topics on you, Jimmy
Scott, can I just
Galantino?
ask you a question about that?
Yes.
Only because Rosie and I, we've had an Oprah request, several, one of which dealt with specifically that. Could we give them the names and addresses of those properties or whatever who own easements or repairing rights? And that is not a document, so that indirectly it's an incorrect request, but they've also requested copies of the plans and copies of a form of agreement, which none of those three things we have, so...
I do not have plans.
Right.
I think what Tom's asking, and I've been asked too, A, how many easements do we need and where are the properties, or what properties are they? So are you able to tell us
I
what
can give you
properties
the
are the
list.
10?
Well, I can give you the list that the state gave us, yes.
Okay.
That
I
they
guess
believe
that would be
it
helpful.
is.
Scott, is that the list that I had, a back
yes, Tom.
attachment? Yeah, I do have that. It's 9
That is-
properties with block and lots, correct?
And the pier.
So it's
And the pier.
So it's 9 plus, that's why you say 10.
That's why I say, I
Yeah.
think it's 10, because I
Okay.
think it's 9 plus the pier.
So I was going to reply to this request and said, this is what the state provided to us back in 1999 or 2000.
Well, it's part of our records. We
Here
have
it is, do what you want. We're not saying that these are all, any, or whatever. We don't know what you just said, that we don't know what else is out there.
So it's the same,
That's correct.
It's the same list as 1999?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's
Well-
the same lot and block numbers.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's some different owners.
And I heard through the grapevine that a couple of people have already given their permission. Is that true?
I have 2 people that sent me letters saying that they would be willing to sign the easement. Unfortunately, when I really search this, I don't know that they have really owned the beach.
Okay. Are they 2 of the 10, or are they 2 of?
No, no,
Okay.
No.
All right.
And then conversely, I heard about somebody that was not part of the 10, did not reply, on Vendome and the beach, that does have a riparian claim that we weren't aware of. I did hear that, too.
Yes, I've heard that.
There's an angled line, there's a property line that goes on an angle from the White Sands.
Just to give you an idea, guys, I deal with these abstractors a lot, and so last month, I was out in Mays Landing for something else, and I spent about 2 or 3 hours with them tracking down one property. It's a long process. That's why you hire a title abstractor to do it. And no, I didn't bill for that, but it was. I enjoy this kind of stuff. I love to see the history, get it back to Camden Atlantic Railroad. How did it come? How did the beach come about? How did we build that boardwalk? But I think we should probably, if you're going to do that, I know you're going to have to do the title searches. Ultimately, that's going to have to be done. All right.
But it doesn't have to be done now, is that correct?
It does not have to be done now.
Do you have anything else, Scott?
I do. Mr. Galantino wanted to take over something, and it being as is, it was his idea, but I think it's a great idea. Why don't we let him take this one over?
All right, let me pass some.
Is that okay with you, Mayor and Commissioners?
I'm fine.
This is the floodplain management plan, simply get the credit for from the CRS. It's just a summarization of what we've been doing for the last 100 years.
I got
What this does is gives us credit for our CRS. It's just a plan that this is a new activity. An activity is a CRS requirement to get our flood insurance discount. This activity is brand new. It came about after Sandy, of course. They want to know what steps we take to help the citizens of Margate with their flood insurance rate discount. And I just summarized a couple of things. I put it into a nice little story, and I presented it to you guys to read. We'll make it public to the Current. They're welcome to put it in the paper if they wish. I have to make it public to the general audience so they can read it, and we get a sizable amount of credit for this.
Does this ensure that we get the 5 that you talked to us about
Yes.
a couple weeks ago? Okay.
And if I could...
We got the 5.
We got the 5, but this is keep
Now the
it.
question is, we want to keep the 5.
We're going to keep it.
Right.
And the other thing I would like to do is make October Flood Awareness Month, and a proclamation. I think I gave Roe a nice little start. which we get credit for also. And we'll be the first in Jersey to do it.
Well, it's always good to be number one, Jim.
Yeah, and just one more thing, in dealing with these officials in the flood, they've told me now that, I believe it was 17 communities in New Jersey got their rating dropped from 6 to 5. We're one of the 17. So, we're an elite group. But then the fight is to keep it there. Because it means another 5% off of everybody's flood insurance for the whole city. So, you know, it's, and Jimmy has been right on top of this all the way, so.
Thanks so much, John. Thank you.
Jim, good job.
Okay, that's all I have, unless you have any questions of me.
Marty, you have something?
Yeah, I brought up a couple of weeks ago that I had heard that we were looking to abandon our Adopt a Beach program, that Commissioner Tauby thought that we should no longer continue with that program. And I was looking, I think it's a mistake, and I was looking for her input as to reasons why, as well as what alternatives we might have. I was also looking for input from you, Mike, if you had any related to that. And I know that I was a part of the presentation that the state did when we were the first community in Atlantic County to create an Adopt a Beach program and had a full-blown Adopt a Beach committee. People from the state came. We were recognized. And so I don't think that we should arbitrarily and certainly without discussion flippantly just abandon a program because it may or may not be accomplishing what it was initially set out to accomplish. But I'm not, as Commissioner of Revenue and Finance, was not directly involved with that program and/or the committee and/or the commissioner. So I'm looking for some input from Brenda and you, Mike, on that.
Okay. Well, good. Why don't we-
As I shared last meeting, we had a meeting, and it wasn't my decision. In fact, I shared the minutes with you and Mike and Rich, and I can read the portion from the Adopt a Beach, from the minutes that regard the Adopt a Beach program.
Okay, can you first tell us who you had a meeting with? We had a meeting. Who?
Okay, Monica Coffey, Franz Adler, Rich Deeney, and myself.
Were any of those people on the original Adopt a Beach committee? Or part of the beautification
Wait,
board?
okay. Mark, can I interrupt a minute?
Yeah, please, Mike. No, he wants to interrupt.
Yeah.
That's good. You have my permission.
Thank you. Can I have your permission too?
Yes,
Okay.
sure.
Why don't we organize this and have this discussion at the next meeting rather than kind of haphazardly go into this and say, would you be agreeable to that, Marty?
Well, as it relates to organize, what are we talking about? Because that's why I didn't press it 2 weeks ago. But certainly, I'm good with
Okay.
some type of,
Okay. You're
tell me
asking
what the
for-
organization
you're
is.
asking for reasons and
I'm prepared to
alternatives?
discuss it. I'm okay with discussing it.
Go ahead.
If you think it's working, Maury, and you want to
If I
run with
think
it, you're
what's
welcome to.
working,
This is what we discussed. There was discussion about the intended purpose of the Adopt a Beach program. It has not evolved in the way it was intended.
But Brenda,
which has-
stop
wait,
right there. No, let me interrupt, and I don't want to be argumentative. You did not meet with any Adopt a Beach committee members.
We had an Adopt a Beach meeting last summer. Not a soul showed up. Not a single soul showed up.
Do you know who,
I was there,
who's
your
on the
wife was
committee?
there, I think Rachel Bogotten was there.
Wait a minute, you just said not a soul showed up?
Not a soul, not an Adopt a Beach person showed up. I did, I have a beach, but,
Oh, you're saying not an adoptee?
right.
Not,
right,
okay.
Yeah.
So, again, when you had this meeting, just indulge, Mike, 1 more minute, and then we'll move on, and then I'll agree to move on.
Okay.
You had a meeting, but you had this meeting without any Adopt a Beach committee members. So how could you make a decision and/or assess whether or not a program was or was not working if none of the members were at the meeting that you had? And if the program wasn't and/or working in regards to the way you thought it should work, why would you not solicit that committee, the original members, maybe members of the beautification board, and discuss how we move forward instead of just making a decision to cancel the program,
Okay.
kill the
If I
program?
can have my turn, you asked me to discuss it, and I really went to. First of all, I did speak with Roger, and I don't believe there is a beautification board. Is there anybody on the board currently?
No, there is not. The Beautification Board exists, but due to inaction, it wasn't reappointed this year on January 1st. Am I on? As it was in previous years. So there is no Beautification Board in effect right now, although it still exists without members.
And I remember at one of their town hall meetings, we all three of us actually agreed, which was nice, that we wanted to limit the advertising on the beach. And this has become advertising for businesses and vanity plates. And, well, let me just read what are in the minutes. There was discussion about the intended purpose of the Adopt a Beach program. It has not evolved in the way it was intended, which was to have the adopter commit to keep their respective beaches clean of litter. Instead, it has become an advertising venue for businesses and vanity tags for families and individuals. Franz expressed disappointment when no one showed up for an Adopt a Beach meeting scheduled last summer. Brenda suggested we cease this program if it's not working. Otherwise, it's sign letter used strictly for advertising. And Maura, you brought up that there's $15,000 in this budget. Yes, there is. And Franz and Frank Richetti and I discussed with Rich post this meeting, after you brought this up, that we could use the money for the lattice containers on the beach. So it would be used for the same goal that Adopt a Beach did. But again, I mean, if you can bring life to this and have our adoptees do what the program was intended to, I'm all for it.
Okay, so you're turning the program over to me. So we're taking it out of the realm of, well, that's fine. And if that's what you want to do, then absolutely, I will take the ball and run with it. And so then there's no more discussion.
Not quite what she said, Commissioner.
Wait a minute, I think that's what she said.
Okay, you're entitled to your thoughts.
Is that not what she said? So the Adopt a Beach program as it exists, you've determined isn't working, and if I'm committed to make it work, then I can do that.
You know,
and I'm willing to do it.
I'm trying to do a good thing for the city. We have this new Sustainable Margate Committee going. There's a lot of energy, and I feel like you're making this personal, Mari. I mean, you can't say that the program's working. It's not. I mean, come on, nobody showed up last summer. I really don't have anything more to say than what I've said already.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not going to debate this with you publicly.
A little late for that, Marty.
Well, you know, Mike,
Your minute's up. How about
the commission established a beautification board. The beautification board, via commission, approved an Adopt a Beach program. The commission should disband the beautification board or disband the Adopt a Beach program. Because there are no beautification board members, I was told, one of the things I remembered was hearing Commissioner Talby say, hey, we have a boatload of people in this city that want to volunteer for things, and so the people that we rift when we combine the zoning and the planning boards would certainly be glad to join other boards that we have. Have we asked any of them? Have we made any effort to secure? We had a great, in my opinion, we had a great beautification board. We had a lot of dedicated volunteers that spent a lot of time and made the city look good. I remember on a monthly basis making awards to businesses. And I got to say, let's not tell the people who adopted beaches in honor of family members who passed away, that we're unhappy with them advertising on our beaches. And let's not say that we have this money and we just don't know how to use it, or we don't want to use it, or
We're
we
not
don't want to
saying
have a
that, Maureen.
committee
We're not saying that.
formulated to figure out how to use it.
Rich, is there an ordinance that we should look at anyway regarding the Adopt-A-Beach? I mean, I know we were going to ask for it, have we?
Yes, I have asked, and I sent a copy to all of you, for the original ordinances that created beautification, Adopt-A-Beach, and Sustainable New Jersey, and we either have them all or we're in the process of getting them all from the clerk's office. I have several of them already.
Rich, I want to say, and Brenda, I'll say this to you, and Mike, I have certainly a personal stake in this, and you're 100% correct, because I lived and breathed the time that my wife and several dedicated members of the community spent trying to kick this Adopt-A-Beach program off. And in that regard, yes, I have a personal stake. I grew up here. I was born and raised on the beach, so I would like to do whatever I can to help facilitate the program, and the idea that we can run an Adopt-A-Beach program, we can run it successfully, we can solicit money to help, we can work with the school kids. There are a lot of things that we can do that apparently haven't been done in the past 2 years. And in that regard, I am volunteering to take that program and try and make it work. I'm also willing to try and re-up and/or solicit volunteers to help me with that program. I just need it to, Brenda, need your blessing, because it is, in fact, a program that falls and works closely with the Public Works Department, if it's going to be successful.
Go ahead. Are you done?
I just want to say, I like the beautification program. I like the awards that we gave to our businesses and homeowners. So I'm not sure who works or who selects those committee members. Roger, if you do, I think that, or the three of us, I think that's wonderful. But I don't think the Adopt-A-Beach program is working. And I'm from the school, if it's broke, fix it.
Okay.
Okay,
All
so
right, hold on.
let's fix it.
Let's, my minute. All right. One of the things that Commissioner Blumberg asked for was he wanted reasons, he wanted alternatives. Why don't we, as I said before, bring some alternatives to the table at the next meeting? I don't think this is proper. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I'm still perplexed that Maury wasn't for advertising and now he is, but okay, thank you. Whatever.
But wait a minute, I wasn't for advertising. I am the one member of the commission that solicited businesses for advertising on the lifeguard shacks. I am the one that solicited businesses to donate umbrellas for all our beach patrol members. And now you're saying I'm not for, and this Adopt-A-Beach program is not for me, was never about advertising. And certainly that you believe that it's morphed into a program for advertising is, number one, your opinion, and number two, if you were looking to place blame, certainly on the Adopt-A-Beach and/or lack of Adopt-A-Beach committee.
Okay. We done? Moving on. How about we do department head reports? Chief, would you like to start this week?
Sure. We're gearing up for Fun Fest, and as you'll see for the 5 o'clock meeting, there's a resolution regarding the parking ordinance change for that event. So other than that, everything's good.
Rosie, would you? Okay, thank you. Maureen?
I'm fine.
Jimmy?
We're good.
Here, I got mine.
Roger?
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Tom?
Last meeting, I mentioned to you that I was trying to get finalized information, and I did finally get it within the last day or so, and I wrote an email to each of you within the last hour, so you probably haven't seen it. But we did hear back. This is regarding the Parkway landscaping, specifically with complaints about dogs and animals getting sick. We did get a reply from the County Board of Health, who had a reply from the State Department of Health, the state veterinarian. I won't go into detail, the report was forwarded to you, but for the benefit of the public, the conclusion was reached that there was no consensus. There was nothing with the landscape contractor in terms of pesticides that can be determined, and again, you'll read it, but going forward, the issue of dogs getting sick is going to have to be up to the individuals to get to their own veterinarians, and I'm forwarding the report to each of the people that complained. Regarding the quality of service, that is still being worked on, documented, and I put that in my report to you in the last hour or so. You'll see it probably tonight or tomorrow. That's it.
How many how many sick dog cases did we get? How many complaints?
I was aware of 3 different people with 3 different dogs.
Thank you. Have anything else, Tom?
No.
Scott, do you have anything else?
Well, I was aware of one dog, but not my dog. So, I did have somebody approach me about the very same question.
You didn't have a dog
that
already?
that their dog was sick, because I
Was
walked my
that
dog.
person one of the 3 that reported to the city?
No, she didn't report to the city. But my dog was fine, and I go up the Parkway lot, so I don't know what it was.
Epidemic.
No, his dog's in better shape than all this other dogs.
I could be. I walk him, and he walks me.
Rich? Lisa?
Okay. It's time to renew and submit the best practices questionnaire that was put out by the governor several years ago. The due date is October 15th. I met with Tom and Rich the other day, and we were discussing it and are in the process of reviewing a few of the questions. And I would say it's about 90% complete. It's going to be on the agenda for October 3rd because as a requirement, needs to be an agenda item where the governing body discusses the results. So once the 3 of us finalize this survey, I will email it to each of you for your review so you're prepared for the discussion on October 3rd. As it stands right now, we have answered enough of the questions where it will not impact our state aid. You have to score, I think, 41. There's 50 questions. We need at least to answer yes or not applicable or prospective to at least 41, and we have so far. And then there's, I believe, 4 or 5 questions still remaining that we'll be reviewing. Okay, what else? Sorry. The JIF meeting yesterday, we were notified that the JIF is starting a public awareness campaign with all its member municipalities. And it's basically an outreach to all the taxpayers to explain to everybody exactly what the joint insurance fund is and what it does. I think, there's a lot of miscommunication or lack of communication, and taxpayers really aren't informed as to how our town is covered when a claim is submitted, how it saves the town money and things like that. So they've come up with a poster and a trifold handout to place around City Hall for distribution. I've also requested a PDF from the JIF, and I forwarded it to Fred, and it will be posted on the website as well. Also, I emailed all of the commissioners, noticed that it's in October on the 9th and 10th is the annual JIF retreat, which will be held at the Flanders in Ocean City. If any of you are interested in attending all or a portion of it, there is a response there, so please submit it. It's due back by September 30th, but Dan Adams and myself will be attending. It's also time for the annual flu shots that are put out by the county. As you know, in years past, the commissioners have authorized our city employees to go and to get a flu shot at one of the locations offered by the county, and what they do is bill us $15 for each employee. Last year, 16 of our employees did go and get the flu shot. So if it's okay with you, I will notify the county that we are interested in, again, and send them a list of employees.
Okay.
Okay. I put at each of your places a current year-to-date budget status. As it stands right now, we should be at about 75%, depending upon, what line item it is. Overall, you'll see we're at 81%, but that also takes into account some non-cash or non-spending non-cash spending accounts, which I charge off. So they're at 100%, which sends it over. But if you review each line item individually, we're right where we should be. We're in good shape as it stands right now. I'm also going to email them to all of the department heads tomorrow for your review. Okay, just a couple other highlights where we stand year-to-date. Our beach badge revenue, we did very well this year. Considering, a lot of the rain and the weather had an impact, and I know a lot of the surrounding towns had a decrease. Overall, we sold 43,099 badges, which represents a total revenue of $319,564. Our preseason sales were down by just over $10,000. But our regular season sales were up by approximately $9,300. So the overall impact was a net decrease in revenue of $1,067, but we're still doing good. And next year, I think our preseason sales will come back up. I know our water bills went out late. That probably had something to do with it. And just out of curiosity, I reached out to Ventnor to see where they stood with their beach badge sales. And their annual revenue is just under $200,000, so we far exceed Ventnor. Also, I just want to point out our construction fees and permits, as it stands year-to-date, we're up $30,000 over this time last year. So we're at approximately $390,000 as compared to $360,000 last year, and that's in spite of waiving those fees due to Hurricane Sandy. So that just goes to show you how much growth there is in the city right now.
We swept out underneath the carpet.
All right. We received in approximately another $18,000 from FEMA a few weeks ago, bringing our year-to-date proceeds $1,014,000. Trying to get back to it so I can request some advance funding on some of the projects that have been obligated but have not been started as of yet, so that's still a work in progress. The state has still not put out any information as of yet on the open enrollment for our health benefits, which is typically in October. It will be sometime in October, but as of yet, I don't have any information except for the recommendation of a 7.8% increase in the rates. As soon as I get that, I will forward it to you and the employees. And we did send the check and the letter requesting our claims experience to Horizon so that we're able to shop the market. Also, at the same time of the open enrollment for our health benefits is open enrollment for employees for this flexible spending account. So I will send notice out. Currently, we only have 2 employees enrolled in that, and they seem to be very pleased with the program. We received the final payment of our 2011 state aid program. Final payment was $52,500, so the total funding on that project was $210,000. Okay. And lastly, we have the preliminary pension figures for next year. Overall increase of 1%. The police and fire retirement actually had a decrease. Public employees had an increase, so it'll bring the total to $2,165,000. There usually is a slight modification, but as it stands right now, there's just an overall increase of 1%. That's all I have.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Chief Tabasco.
We're ready for Fun Fest. We're preparing for Fire Prevention Week, which is October 6th through the 12th this year. It's where we do presentations and programs in all the schools, daycares, and any kind of event that needs to be done in Margate. Beach patrol-wise, just a reminder, this is the last weekend for guarded beaches. There's 4 beaches open, Brunswick, Huntington, Thurlow, and Washington, and as of Monday, the beaches are officially closed. And I'm looking forward to swearing in our 3 new firemen at the next excuse me, did I say 3? 1. Sorry. Ted Gogol, who's been with us for a few months already, but we're swearing him in at 5 o'clock.
In public.
Thank you.
The swearing in will be at public, right?
Right.
Correct.
Thank
I
you.
understand we're finishing up lifeguard headquarters this week, too?
That's
Finishing up
correct.
okay, I was just curious.
It's finished.
Good.
Ed?
Closing up.
Okay, several of the I'm going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the resolutions that relate to my report. The first one is we're rejecting bids for the wireless telecommunication facility at the Gladstone Tank. I think at the last meeting reported there was only one bidder, and their bid had a fatal flaw, so we rejected them. The next one is authorization to rebid it. So we'll rebid again, and be probably a 30-day time again, since that's apparently the length of time that the telecommunication facility people need to put their bid together. So generally, this brings in an additional $30,000 to $35,000 a year of revenue to the town. The next one, which is 181, is the final change order for the redevelopment of well number 8. It's actually a reduction of $28,000. When we do a bid for a well, we put an anticipated cost for spare parts, or for repair parts, I should say. We didn't need to use the whole list, so it's a reduction in the contract of $28,000. The next one, 182, is a contract. We went out for quotes to take what used to be the old generator from the Washington Avenue City Hall. Many years ago, it was replaced, took it over to Fire Station 2. It was temporarily hooked up to only power a few items. We requested quotes to go in and actually tie the generator in properly to power the whole Fire Station number 2. So the low bidder on that was Scalfo Electric, and in the amount of $19,980. The 2 bidders were Scalfo and Calvi. We've worked with both of them. They both do good work, so we're comfortable with these award. The next one, 183, is actually to award a contract to Pro Construction. Again, we went out for quotes. This was for the concrete work in the vicinity of the Kenyon Avenue bulkhead. When we had to redo the Kenyon Avenue bulkhead as an emergency, we lost most of the sidewalk around it, some of the curbing, some of the gutter, and some of the sidewalk of the adjacent residents. So we requested quotes for that. Pro Construction was the low bidder at $89.40. It was a good price for the amount of concrete that we got there. So that's basically, those are the resolutions that are reflected in my report. In addition, the road program has started. I initially had reported they were going to start on Argyle. They came back to me, requested that they wanted to start on the beach blocks, primarily Douglas, and then they'll work their way down. So they did is they came in this week. They put a dewatering system in, and they're doing the water main. At the same time, they hit one of our traffic signal conduits. That's being repaired. And Lisa, what I want to do I want to throw that price or the cost of that to the contractor. I don't know if we necessarily have to send it to our insurance company unless that's procedure, but our contractors are the ones responsible for cost on that. Okay? So we'll talk about that, but I saw your email, that's why I brought it up. Gladstone Avenue water tank painting. The bid opening is scheduled for October 10th. A pre-bid inspection of the tank for the potential bidders is scheduled for September 25th. So that tank needs to be repainted. In addition, our Benson Avenue tank, which was done 2 years ago, the paint system is failing, so we've made the contractor aware of that. They're going to have to rectify that. And I believe that's pretty much all I have.
Thank you, Ed. Maury, do you have anything else?
Nope, nothing.
Brenda?
No, newsletter will go out soon, and I thank everybody who contributed to it.
Thank you. I have nothing. At this point, we will open to public comment. You may discuss anything that was discussed here at this meeting.
School, 22 West Drive. Mayor, kudos to our esteemed solicitor for donating pro bono research out at Mays Landing in the title abstracts. It's a tedious project at best, and spending several hours is indeed commendable, particularly when we're not billing the city. However, the solicitor made several remarks, Mayor, that there seems to be at least 10 properties with legal easements, and possibly an 11th at Vendome. And if my recollection serves me right, Mayor, the solicitor sent out certified and/or registered letters seeking permission to have an easement. Now, could we have an update, Mayor, on how many positive or negative responses were received over these many weeks? And what direction it seems to be going into? Because if I recall what the solicitor implied, is that if we couldn't get sufficient number of easements, the dunes were a no-go from the get-go. Is any of this correct or incorrect, Mayor? Could you have the solicitor weigh in on this weighty problem?
John,
I know, Mayor.
We've already been through this, John. We sent out letters, John, 60 people? To 60 beachfront owners.
Yes.
Okay? 2 have responded.
But they don't have easements, Mayor.
That is correct, John. We talked about that earlier in this meeting. That is
They don't
correct.
appear to have the right to grant an easement.
Okay.
Okay.
So for all intents and purposes, you haven't had one actual affirmative letter granting an easement to proceed with the dunes. Is that correct?
That is correct at this point, John.
And is it also correct, Mayor, that if these easements are not secured, that the Army Corps of Engineers will deign not to proceed with the dune project? Is that correct, Mayor,
I
Solicitor?
believe that is correct, John. Scott, is that correct?
That has been said in some of our meetings.
Is there any way of solidifying that with the Army Corps of Engineers?
I don't believe there is.
Oh, that's rather ambiguous, this
It is very
status.
ambiguous.
Why don't we seek to clarify this even before we do this referendum? Because if the city cannot secure these easements, then it seems like, we're putting the cart before the horse. And it would be incumbent upon us to first determine the status of those easements and whether or not they can or cannot be granted,
15 seconds, John. Use
Or-
it judiciously, please.
Pardon, Mayor?
Use it judiciously.
Most judiciously, Mayor. But I think I've made my point that the solicitor is coming up empty-handed, and I would suggest perhaps we send out another series of certified letters before we go down the primrose path of the referendum. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, John. Anyone else?
Good evening. Rachel Begotten, 8 South Brunswick Avenue. I'll keep this very brief. I was one of those members of the Beautification Board and Adopt a Beach Committee that worked very hard on the program. I will tell you, I happen to agree with both Maury and Brenda on some of their points. Brenda is absolutely correct in that the program really didn't come to fruition the way we had hoped. There's very few of us that actually go out there and clean the beach ourselves. But conversely, as Maury pointed out, we have between 60 and 65 beaches that were donated between initially $500 and then the price was lowered to $250. So we have approximately, $12,000 sitting in that kitty right now that I hate to see us throw the baby with the bathwater out. I'd be more than happy to sit down with Brenda, Maury, Mike, whoever, and look at ways that we could actually revitalize the program a little bit. So, thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Anyone else? Is there a motion to close public comment?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Becker? Yes. Blumberg?
Yes.
Dalby?
Yes.
Is there are we going to executive session here or after the next?
Second meeting.
Cool. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Tom, you with us here, boy?
Yes, I was talking to Roger. Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Dalby?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Meeting is adjourned. Please stay. We have a swearing in the next meeting. We'll take a very short break and get right back to work.